welcome you all for today's session on functions of carbohydrates. Before we enter into the session, let me introduce myself to you. I am J.Mahalakshmi, Assistant Professor of Nutrition and Dietetics from the Standard Fireworks Rajaratnam College for Women. So here we move into the session. Before discussing the functions of carbohydrates, we are discussing what carbohydrates are. Carbohydrates are the chemical substances which contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and the main purpose of carbohydrates in the human body is to generate energy for the survival of the living tissues. If from food sources, carbohydrates, we get the carbohydrates from food sources such as grains, vegetables, fruits, milk and other dairy products, and lots and lots of other products also. From the food products, the carbohydrates are present as in different forms like dietary fiber, polysaccharides, glycogen, starch and many more. For example, the carbohydrates present in milk are called as lactose, and the carbohydrates present in grains are called maltose. So before we going into the functions of carbohydrates, we should know the basic classification of carbohydrates. So utilization of carbohydrates in the human body. So different types of carbohydrates are present in the nature, in the plants, in the plant resources and animal resources as starch and glycogen and many other things. The carbohydrates which we eat through food will get broken down in the human body and get utilized, absorbed and utilized in the human body for further processes and functions which we are going to discuss later. So the major how the body utilizes glucose is first in the formation and breakdown of glucose happens. Broken down of glucose, the process is called as glycolysis, and oxidation of glucose happens, and glucose, galactose and fructose are absorbed in the intestine and enters into the portal circulation. Portal circulation is a circulation happens between the intestine and the liver. From the intestine, the carbohydrates are absorbed and it is transferred into the liver, and in the liver the metabolic processes happens. Liver is a metabolic site for the major physiological changes in the human body. So in the liver, the part of a glucose and the entire galactose and fructose are converted into glycogen and is being stored, and the liver also synthesis the excess of glucose into the cholesterol molecules and is also being stored. The basic energy is obtained from the carbohydrates for each and every cells and tissues, and it is being utilized in the body. So mode of utilization, the basic carbohydrates like the hexose components, glucose, galactose and fructose are only being utilized in the human body. So all the other components which is not essential like dietary fiber or other insoluble fibers will be eliminated from the human body. The only the hexose components like glucose, galactose and fructose is being absorbed in the intestine, and it is transferred into the blood, and the blood transports the absorbed carbohydrates into the liver, where it is converted into glycogen and stored. Liver stores glycogen and also the muscle tissue stores glycogen, and the glycogen and the carbohydrate components is also gets converted into fat content, and it is stored in the adipose tissue. So now we are moving into the functions of carbohydrates. These are the list of functions performed by the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is a major macronutrient, very essential for the human body, and it performs all the listed functions. Without carbohydrates, a person cannot survive. All the body the major organs in the human body like brain, liver, heart, everything requires carbohydrates in the form of glucose for energy. So one by one we are going to discuss the functions of carbohydrates. First one is production and supply of energy. The main function of carbohydrates is to provide energy through the glycolysis, Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. The energy is being synthesized in the human body, human cells. So RBC and brain cells derive all the energy from the glucose. So brain utilizes energy only from glucose. So our body, 25% of body's carbohydrate glucose is being utilized by the brain. Glucose can also fuel muscle cells and other body cells also. So maximum energy is being derived only from the carbohydrate. This energy metabolism happens in each and every cell at the mitochondria. The glycolysis process takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell, and the electron transport chain in the Krebs cycle happens in the mitochondria of the cell. So, mitochondria is called the powerhouse of the cell, which produces energy. So, protein sparing action. The major role of carbohydrate is to provide energy. So, in case if carbohydrate is absent in the human body, or if a person is consuming less carbohydrates, if a person undergoes starvation, if a person undergoes a period of starvation or less intake of foods, the person's body protein will get broken down and provides energy. This process is known as protein sparing action. The role of carbohydrates is to provide energy. In case if carbohydrates is not available, the protein in the human body will get converted into carbohydrates and provides energy. The glycogen stores. So, the carbohydrate which we consume is converted into glucose, and glucose is being absorbed and it is stored as glycogen. So, the glycogen present in the liver and the muscles will provide energy for a certain period of time. After that, the glycogen stores will be depleted and we will be lacking the energy. At this time, the process called gluconeogenesis kickstart, and the protein substances in the body like the body protein, muscle protein, tissue protein will get broken down and it is converted into carbohydrates and enters into the energy providing action. So, this is known as protein sparing action. And the major thing is by doing so, if carbohydrate is absent, this process happens. So, we have to maintain the adequate amount of carbohydrate in everyone's diet, so that the protein is spared to do its own work like bodybuilding and repairing process. So, the role of protein is tissue building, body building, repair and maintenance functions in the human body. So, if protein has to do that role, the carbohydrate need to be adequately present in the human's diet, in the human body also. So, if carbohydrate performs its role, the protein will perform its role. If carbohydrates is lacking, the protein will do the role of carbohydrate. So, this is protein sparing action. And oxidation of fat. Oxidation of fat, the fat substances, the fat we consume will broken down into acetyl-CoA, which enters into the Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain for energy. So, sufficient glucose is needed to start the metabolism of fat to carbohydrate and H2O in the body. So, initially we need carbohydrate glucose components to kickstart the energy metabolism. The first step is glycolysis. So, only then the protein either the protein substances or fat substances will enter into the energy metabolism. Low carbohydrate intake plus low insulin increases the incomplete breakdown of fatty acids and liver metabolic pathway, and which leads to ketone formations in the urine. So, and the next one is necessity for nervous system. So, in the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal cord, which requires glucose as a main source of energy. If a person is under the hypoglycemia is lowering blood sugar level, the person will undergo the serious life threatening complications and the person will enter into coma. So, if a brain cell lacks glucose for a short period of time, the cells will die, and the consequences will be worse, and the person will enter into coma, and the damage cannot be reversible. So, once the brain damage occurs, if a nervous system is depleted of energy, the nerve cells will die, and the consequent changes will not be reversed in the human body. Source of energy for muscular activity. As we said, the carbohydrates will be stored in the form of glycogen in the muscles. So, muscular activity requires certain amount of energy as a physical activity. So, in the muscular contraction, the glycogen in the body tissues is converted into pyruvic acid and lactic acid. So, if a person body oxygen is required for muscular activity and energy is also required for muscular activity. The muscles uses muscle glycogen for energy. So, while the glycogen is broken down into glucose and then it enters into the energy providing mechanism, in the aerobic pathway it ends up in pyruvic acid. If body lacks oxygen, the pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid, and this entire mechanism is known as glycolysis. So, during relaxation, the lactic acid is a short term mechanism. If a person, for example, if a person is running for a longer period of time, the body's glycogen will get depleted, and the corresponding component will not enter into the Krebs cycle. So, for instant energy providing, the pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid. The lactic acid will get accumulated in the human body and causes the fatigue after the exercise session or a severe sports activity or a strenuous physical activity. So, while relaxing, again the lactic acid is oxidized to pyruvic acid and acetyl-CoA, and it enters into the TCA cycle and further energy metabolism. So, oxygen is required while converting the lactic acid into the pyruvic acid. If a body lacks the oxygen, pyruvic acid is straightly converted into lactic acid. So, special functions of carbohydrates in the liver. The liver performs the majority of metabolic functions. Liver only performs about 3000 and more metabolic functions in the human body. Detoxification and regulating actions are also one such component. In the regulating actions involves the secretion of bile and maintaining the fat metabolism. Protein synthesis in the human body is all happening in the liver, and the toxic substances present in the human body in any form is being broken down, detoxified, and liver eliminates the toxic agents, toxic chemicals in the human body, and it is being eliminated by the kidneys again. So, the rate of oxidation of amino acid in the liver is diminished if abundant supply of carbohydrates are available, that we have discussed in the protein sparing action. The action happens in the liver. So, liver is the major organ which broken down or transfers or synthesis protein in any form. So, liver oxidizes glucose in the presence of fatty acids. Thus, the production of ketone bodies and acetoacetic acid and beta hydroxybutyric acid from the oxidation of fatty acid is prevented. So, if liver performs well, the other chemical reactions will not happen. So, carbohydrates for heart muscles, like as we said for nervous tissues, the heart muscle which works 24/7 requires energy for the action, contraction and expansion action. The glucose is the only source of energy for cardiac muscles also. So, in hypoglycemia, a definite adverse changes is noted in the ECG and in the functional efficiency of the heart. If a person is undergoing hypoglycemia is low blood sugar level. If a person has an extra overdose of insulin, the person will enter into the hypoglycemia stage. During that stage, the functionality of the heart changes has been observed in the ECG. So, synthesis of ribose from glucose. Synthesis of ribose. All the food items we consume contains a little to high amount of carbohydrates. These carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, fructose and galactose, and is being observed in the human body. So, the carbohydrates which the human intestine absorbs are only hexoses. Ribose is a pentose sugar. Ribose is also a carbohydrate, but it is a pentose sugar which contains only 5 carbon atoms, whereas the glucose, galactose and fructose are hexose which contain 6 carbon atoms. The ribose is a major element present in the RNA and DNA and other nucleotide substances. So, like ribose nucleic acid and deoxyribose nucleic acid. So, the glucose in the body, human body synthesis glucose, synthesis ribose from the glucose through a specific metabolic pathway called hexose monophosphate shunt or pentose pathway. So, ribose are the major present in the ribose is a carbohydrate which is present majoritarily in the DNA and RNA of the human cell. So, conversion of carbohydrate to fat. If a carbohydrate is excess in the human body, it is then converted and stored in the adipose tissue as fat. So, the excess carbohydrate is also converted to fat and stored in the human body, because human body cannot store more amount of glycogen, but body can store more amount of fat. So, if a person is on a positive energy balance, or if a person consumes more amount of carbohydrate, then the person's body synthesis more amount of fat. So, formation of carbohydrate from the protein. So, again liver broken down the protein and it is then converted into the carbon structures, carbohydrate structures to enter into the energy metabolism. So, that action from the protein carbohydrates are synthesized, from the same version from the carbohydrates protein will also be synthesized by the liver. So, the growth of desirable bacteria. So, lactose is a substance which lactose is a disaccharide which promotes the growth of desirable bacteria. These bacteria are responsible for the synthesis and absorption of certain type of vitamins and calcium and etc. So these type of bacteria also requires the dietary fiber or probiotics. These bacteria are called desirable bacteria are called probiotics, and the substances which supports the promotion and growth of bacteria is known as prebiotics. Prebiotics are nothing but the dietary fiber, which is again a carbohydrate, is responsible for the synthesis of B complex vitamins in the intestine. So dietary fiber, the fiber is responsible for the peristaltic movement in the GI tract and easy absorption of nutrients in the GI tract. And there are two types of fiber, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. The soluble fiber absorbs more amount of water, thereby it relieves us from the constipation, and also it enhances the fecal bulk for easy elimination. The dietary fiber provides bulk to the fecal matter and helps for easy defecation process. It also degenerative diseases, lifelong chronic diseases happens because of the constipation or excessive reabsorption of bile from the digestive tract, and all those toxins present in the digestive tract which interfere with the the toxins present in the digestive tract has a major impact on the colon cancer and all those. The bile substances which is get reabsorbed from the intestinal tract from the fecal matter will be recycled to produce more amount of cholesterol, thereby the cholesterol levels in the human body increases. So these causes the chronic degenerative diseases like atherosclerosis, cardiovascular diseases, coronary artery diseases, and cancers, many types of cancer, intestinal cancers and all. So dietary fiber prevents these degenerative diseases. So biosynthesis of amino acids, the amino acids are of two types, essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. Essential amino acids which we consume through food, and non-essential amino acids are synthesized in the human body from the carbohydrate sources, or it is been transferred from the essential amino acids also. So in the carbon skeletation for the synthesis of amino acids, alanine, aspartic acid, glutamic acid are provided by the glucose during its oxidation process. So the the glucose is being oxidized and it enters into the cyclic reactions of pyruvic acid and in Krebs cycle oxaloacetic acid and alpha ketogluteric acid. And the amino acids like alanine, aspartic acid, glutamic acid are produced from these metabolic byproducts of glycolysis. So carbohydrates involves in the synthesis of amino acids. So conclusion. So carbohydrates is the basic essential need for human body to maintain, to provide energy for growth, for maintaining of health, protect us from the illness and all the other things. So carbohydrates, a person depriving of carbohydrates will end up in various diseases, serious consequences, and carbohydrates are very essential for the human body. Thank you. Thanks for watching.